As I stood in the shadows, the roar of applause and marching drums filled the grand hall. Yet, somehow, I felt invisible, like a ghost lost in a crowd of living pride. The cameras flashed, the gold insignias shimmered, but all I saw was the mirror of what I once was, and what I lost. How does a room so loud, so proud, hide the ache of longing? The scent of rain-streaked air drifted in, mingling with the faint whiff of polished leather and burnt coffee. Deep down, I wondered, who are we really fighting to impress? Who's really watching us when no one's looking? Watching from behind, I see the family I once knew. My father, beaming with that stiff, military pride, and my brother Ethan Harris, radiating confidence, clutching his mic like a trophy. Flashback to a decade ago. I wore the uniform too, bleeding for something bigger. But I let that part of me fade the day I left the battlefield, the dinner table, everything that made me feel alive. Now I'm just a guest. Not invited, not recognized, just someone here to watch the parade of medals and speeches, pretending I belong. The room is grand, yet cold. Tall flags stretch like silent guards along the walls. The seal of the Department of Defense glints under the stage lights, shining down on a sea of decorated faces. An airman nervously leads me to the back, his confusion clear when he sees my ID. "You're a major," I whisper softly. "Just a guest today." No warm welcomes, no nods or smiles, just a formality, a reminder of a soldier they'd rather forget. The ceremony shifts. Respectful applause, medals pinned with precision, words spoken of sacrifice and honor. Ethan Harris appears on stage, handsome as ever in his dress blue, an American hero. He grips the microphone with practiced ease, sharing what truly matters: his mentors, his family, the legacy he's trying to uphold. I hold my breath, waiting for my turn to speak, but all I hear is an echo. My father, Colonel Cole, taught me strength. My mother, Meredith, offered compassion. That's it. That's all I get. A fleeting, trembling smile curls my lips, a response from someone who sat through 100 dinners where he's nothing but a story of the past. Ethan Harris's eyes don't find me. Neither does Alan's. In the end, I wonder, what's it all for? Who are we really fighting to impress? And who's watching when the world isn't looking? The crowd's murmur swells as Ethan Harris's name echoes softly across the ceremony hall. But, out of the corner of my eye, I see someone. Someone in the shadows, watching. Unseen. Quiet. It's a look that cuts deeper than words, like a silent challenge or maybe a plea. The air feels thick, heavy with things left unsaid. No one else notices. Just me. That distant figure's gaze feels unresolved, as if they're waiting for something to be acknowledged, something to be revealed. What secrets are hiding behind that stare? Who is really paying attention? And what happens when that silent observer steps out of the shadows? The moment hangs, fragile, on the cusp of discovery. The room holds its breath. Will the truth finally come into the light, or stay buried, forever unseen? Darkened eyes, rain-scented air, and the rustle of leaves outside. Nothing about this moment is coincidence. It's a quiet challenge, a lingering question. And the answer, that's still waiting in the shadows. Meredith's glance flicks past me, then sharpens into something almost smug, like she's noticed who I am. She doesn't wave, just tilts her chin, a silent, "You came." I straighten my blazer. No medals today, just civilian grays. It's easier this way, blend in among the brass and applause, invisible. When Ethan Harris steps down from the stage, the applause rises again. He moves down the aisle, shaking hands, smiling, surrounded by admirers, fellow officers, old friends. As he nears my row, I rise. He sees me. I know he does. His eyes linger, half a second, and he offers a nod, distant but polite, like a teacher recalling a former student. Then he's gone, swallowed by more applause. I sit back slowly, the wind knocked out, not by violence, but by silence. That familiar ache, that familiar omission. Not new, just rehearsed. I watch the backs of heads, gray, brown, blonde, lined up so neatly like soldiers in formation. I trace memories back. The last time I stood here, uniform pressed, chin high, heart full. I'd just returned from a deployment, injured, offered a teaching spot at West Point. Alan refused to attend. The welcome, the ceremony. Ethan Harris came instead. Meredith didn't even send a text. Now, 10 years later, I'm the outsider at my brother's victory parade. The scent of aftershave drifts in, faint, familiar. Then, out of nowhere, Major Cole, the voice rings out, sharp, commanding. I turn. Instinct. The name pulls at something buried deep within me. That moment, in the quiet before the storm, leaves the air thick with questions. Everyone's caught in the spectacle. Medals, proud speeches, tradition. But that shadowed glance, that silent visitor's stare, that's the real story waiting to unfold. The whole room is still, breath held, as if the universe itself is waiting to see if secrets will spill or stay hidden. Who's really paying attention? Who's watching in the darkness? And what will they reveal when the silence finally breaks? I kept my distance near the side door, shadows flickering behind the flag display. There he was, General Huxley. Older, taller, but still that same steel-gray gaze and jaw set like granite. It's been nearly a decade since I last saw him, since that mission that tore my career apart and stole my seat at my father's table. And now, here he was, looking straight at me. Major Rebecca Cole. I thought legends retired at parades, not silence. His voice hasn't changed, still clipped, gravelly, carrying a weight that could hush a room. I turned wholeheartedly to face him, his stance, rigid, poised even in stillness. Beneath that steely exterior, a flicker of warmth in his eyes, like he remembers the trust once shared on the battlefield or near it. I offered a thin, guarded smile. Some legends aren't made for parades, he murmured. So, it was silence by design. That hallway behind the auditorium stretched empty. Sterile tiles, security cameras perched like vultures, electric hum filling the silence. No one else was here, just us two ghosts, relics of a war long past. He gestured to a nearby bench. Got a minute? I nodded, curiosity outweighing caution. We sat apart, but close enough to feel the weight of unspoken memories. He studied me like a blueprint, every line, every scar of those lost years. Finally, he reached into his jacket pocket, revealing a battered notepad. I kept tabs on you after Kandahar, he said quietly. That voice told me, no surprises. He'd been watching all along. My jaw clenched, but I didn't interrupt. Your file was sealed, I said, voice steady. They buried what really happened. I knew what was coming next. He didn't seem to expect gratitude. No, just a nod of acknowledgement. I saw what I needed. You didn't break protocol. You made the call, one that saved lives. His words hung, heavy with meaning. But I knew that what's written in the report is just part of the story. That's not what they said, I mumbled, eyes fixed on the distant wall, feeling the weight of those missing pieces. He scoffed softly. The review board, they'd fold faster than origami under a coffee spill. That's Huxley. Truth hidden behind layers of authority, guarded but honest in his own way. We sat there, silent, the kind that sticks. Sometimes, in moments like these, the quiet tells more than 1,000 words. Secrets that refuse to stay buried, shadows that refuse to fade. And as I looked into his eyes, I wondered, who's watching us? In the darkness beyond the official story? Who's listening, waiting for the moment to reveal the truths we all hide? Whatever I'd come here seeking, recognition, closure, might never come. But one thing's clear, even legends have cracks, and truths sometimes whisper louder in silence. The rain's scent clings to the air, almost blending with the hushed tension. Everyone's standing silent, the kind of quiet that feels heavy, like waiting for something just beyond reach. Then, suddenly, a gust slips through, unpredictable. It sends a folded flag tumbling to the ground. The crowd gasps. Everyone's eyes flick to that flag, and under it, there's something unexpected. A faded photograph, crumpled but clear. Someone's face. A familiar face. And not just anyone. In that flickering moment, I see it, recognize something I never expected to find. That face, it's maybe a sibling I lost touch with, or a part of me I'd never knew was there. My breath catches. The silence stretches, thick with shock, and in one breath, everything shifts. Because I realize, this entire time, they were here, watching, waiting, hidden in plain sight. This revelation turns my quest for recognition into a tangled web of hope and hurt, one I never saw coming. Sometimes the truth's so close it's right in front of our eyes. But do we see it, or do we need a gust of wind to stir it up? The sun bore down, relentless, as I knelt before the veterans' graves. My hand brushed the cold, weathered stone, each rough ridge echoing stories long buried. The scent of burnt rubber from patrols haunted my senses, tugging at memories I couldn't escape. Comrades lost in the flickering chaos, gunfire ringing still in my ears. Somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of a child's laughter, innocence slipping away, tangled with the roar of war. I felt a deep ache, longing for recognition, for connection. Did they see me beyond the uniform? For a moment, I wondered if anyone ever truly does. My mind flickered. What if somewhere out there someone's waiting to acknowledge what I've endured, or am I destined to remain unseen, a shadow of who I was? With a silent breath, I asked myself, is it enough to just serve, or do I need more, to find my place amid the silence, even if the world forgets? Back in that moment of reflection, the dirt beneath my knees blurred into a memory, faded but forever etched, the pain, the pride, woven together in quiet resilience. Every step I took afterward, every encounter, felt tinged with the unspoken truth. I fought for recognition, for understanding. But amid that silent ache, I realized one thing. Sometimes the real victories are invisible. And maybe, just maybe, the fight isn't about them seeing you. It's about seeing yourself, even when the world refuses. The sun blazed down with that unrelenting heat we know so well. I kneeled before rows of veterans' graves, fingertips grazing the rough, weathered stone, each one a silent witness to stories nobody's told in decades. The scent of burnt rubber from patrols hung in the air, mixing with the earthy dirt that clung beneath my nails. Somewhere a child's laughter fluttered, innocent and pure, but lost amid the echo of gunfire. I felt that ache, a hollow longing for acknowledgement, for connection beyond the uniform. Do they see me? I wondered, or am I just a shadow passing through, unnoticed? My mind drifted. Maybe out there, someone's waiting to see what I've endured, or maybe I'm destined to stay unseen. The silence pressed in. Everything blurred, except for the quiet resilience inside me. It's not about being seen by others, I realized, but about seeing myself. Because sometimes, the biggest victories are the ones no one talks about, the ones we win in silence, in the quiet moments we own just for ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, the fight isn't about being recognized, but about recognizing who we really are. The ceremony fades into a haunting silence, the last notes of the national anthem echoing, then melting into nothingness. Shadows stretch long across the gravel lot, hiding the unspoken tension simmering beneath proud smiles. The camera pinpoints the narrator's haunted eyes, bright with fierce pride yet shadowed by pain. Then, a barely perceptible movement, a muffled step approaching, breaks the quiet. A flicker of intent. Ethan Harris's subtle signal hints at a secret he's been hiding, something bigger beneath the surface. The narrator's gaze sharpens, tracking a figure in the distance. What's hidden behind that quiet figure? What will be uncovered in that moment? At what cost? You wonder if it's just history, memories echoing, or if this silent gathering holds a revelation, one that could upend everything they believe. Out here, beneath the sprawling sky, history's weight presses down. Proud families, veterans, the quiet stranger watching, each bears their own scars. And somewhere, in the shadows, a secret waits to slip loose, something that could shake the foundation of it all. The air thickens, heavy with unspoken truths. What is it about these quiet moments that keep us on the edge? Is the silence a shield or a trap? Because in the end, sometimes the real victory isn't in what's shouted out loud. It's what stays buried, waiting for the right moment to surface. And as the last light dims and the shadows coalesce, you're left asking, what's next, and who's really watching? The scene holds. The tension lingers. The story isn't over yet. The hum of helicopters drifts overhead, distant yet deafening, blending with the scent of burnt leather, sweat, and a hint of rain on the horizon. My fingers brush cold against the metal of my dog tags, and suddenly, time fractures. Memories flood in, shouting commands over gunfire, the camaraderie that made me feel alive, the pulse of explosions echoing in my chest. I see the night sky, stars flickering like metals, shimmering distant, unreachable. Then, an echo, my mother's voice calling me home. That familiar sound clashes with the roar of turbines, pulling me between pride and loss. Why is it so hard to reconcile these worlds? Why does the ache of belonging sometimes feel like an endless void? Out here, beneath this sprawling sky, history presses down. Families proud, veterans distant, strangers observing. But beneath their smiles, secrets simmer. And somewhere in the shadows, something unspoken waits, something that could shatter everything we hold sacred. The air thickens with truths kept hidden, words unspoken. Follow the quiet, because sometimes victory isn't loud. Sometimes it's what remains buried. Waiting, and as the last light fades into darkness, you're left asking, who's watching, who's really in control? The silence holds. The tension hangs. The story isn't done yet. The ceremony was quiet. No grand speeches, just the low hum of anticipation. I stood there, shoulder to shoulder with faces I didn't recognize, feeling years of silence pounding in my chest. The flag draped over that old chair, faded and tattered, seemed to carry a weight all its own. Then, out of the corner of my eye, a glint, almost missed. I reached out, fingers trembling, brushing against something tucked beneath. It was an envelope, crinkled, hidden in shadows beneath the flag. Heart pounding, I hesitated, then peeled it open. Inside, a single note from my father. Not the tough soldier I'd been told about, but words he'd never spoken aloud. He'd been watching, proud but silenced by the years. That moment shifted everything. The applause, the external recognition, it all faded. What I'd secretly craved was already there. Hidden in the roots I thought I'd lost, waiting to be claimed. And suddenly, I knew. Sometimes the acknowledgement we need has already been given. It just takes the right moment to find it. The old chest sat beneath the window, crusted and quiet, yet somehow alive. I ran my fingers over its cracked leather, catching the scent of dust and memories. My mother had always warned me not to open it, but the temptation was irresistible. Beneath layers of worn quilts and piles of her journals, I found her handwriting, deep blue ink, lively and bold, words that refused to fade. "Don't let them erase who you are," she wrote. I read it again, then once more, as if each repetition might reveal some hidden truth I'd overlooked for years. The date on that journal entry was 6 months before her final hospital stay. Tucked in the back, between the pages and the binding, lay a sealed envelope. No sender, no signature, just my name and the faint scent of lilacs. "Rebecca, if you're reading this..." Her voice echoed softly. I sat across from a man in a tan suit, in a place so old that the wood paneling curled at the edges. Michael Brenneresque, a state attorney. Pale, tense, regret cloaking him like an unwanted cologne. He handed me the manila envelope with a somber look. "This isn't a copy," he said quietly. "It's the original." I hesitated, then opened it. Inside, sealed in 2015, were documents. Not the usual, but something different. A plot of land in Virginia, and a trust of nearly $600,000, hidden from the family. Not for Ethan Harris or Alan, but for something called Elizabeth House, a project for women they forget. The words echoed in my mind. Why? And what was my mother protecting me from all those years? The truth, buried in that envelope, was more than just a secret. It was a storm waiting to break. I knew. This wasn't over. Not yet. The ceremony haze settled quietly over the crowd. Men and women in uniform stood shoulder to shoulder, proud but distant. Somewhere behind the waving flags and hushed applause, I couldn't shake the feeling, like I'd forgotten something vital. I scanned the crowd, looking for her. Then something caught my eye. Behind the flags, tucked away behind a folded piece of fabric, was a small vessel, unassuming, overlooked. Its surface was worn, but engraved on a tiny brass plaque was my name. I stepped closer, heart pounding. It was so small, so unexpectedly personal, like a hidden whisper in a loud room. Suddenly, the faint rustle of fabric, almost like breath, made me turn. There, concealed in shadow, was that vessel, and inside it, a piece of paper, a worn plaque with my name. The past flooded in, every sacrifice I'd made, all the silence, the memories I'd buried. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just an object, it was an acknowledgement I never saw coming. For the first time, I felt seen, not as the outsider, but as part of something bigger. The little thing I'd always ignored? It had been waiting all along, holding my story, my worth, my place. It changed everything. Because sometimes recognition isn't shouted from the rooftops. It's quietly tucked in a corner, waiting to be discovered. It's a cold, gray morning, the kind where the rain smells like forgotten memories. I stand in the back of the crowd, watching as the flag is raised, voices hushed, faces proud, yet distant, men and women in uniform, all leaders of different stories. I'd been told this was about honor, about loyalty. But what I see tonight is something else. Behind the waving flags, tucked in a quiet corner, I spot it, a small badge out of place. It's weathered, faded, but unmistakable. Worn beneath Ethan Harris's insignia, buried just below the surface, is an unfamiliar symbol. I stare, my heart pounding. That badge is from a secret unit, one involved in shadowy missions no one wants to talk about. How could I have missed it? How long has this been hidden? The proud smile on Ethan Harris's face cracks ever so slightly. His veneer of patriotism falls away for a flicker. Guilt? Confusion? It's there, rippling under his bravado. And suddenly I realize this isn't the story I thought I knew. The family legacy, the valor, maybe it's only part of the truth. A cold shiver runs down my spine. Because if Ethan Harris hides this, what else has been kept in the shadows? How many brave faces wear masks, hiding secrets that threaten everything? And I, someone once lost in the echoes of war, am left questioning everything. Was heroism real, or just buried lies, waiting to surface? What does it mean to serve and to be truly loyal? Maybe some stories aren't meant to be told, or maybe they're just waiting for moments like this, when one small badge, one hidden truth, unravels the illusion, turning a proud family into strangers. Sometimes the harshest revelations come quietly, tucked beneath layers of obligation and pride. And I wonder, how many others are out there standing silent in the shadows of their own stories? I need to tell you what really happened out there. I sat down on the edge of a steel bench, heart pounding in my chest. In front of me, a little girl was bleeding. Command said, "Fall back," but Rebecca didn't listen. She went straight for her, and I followed, not the orders. Her, because in that moment, I realized something no protocol can teach. Some lives, they matter more. I wiped my eyes, trembling. Rebecca saved that girl. She tried to save me, too, dragged me as far as she could until the bullets made it impossible. She didn't leave me behind. I told her to run. If this letter never reaches anyone, know this. She didn't fail us. She saved us both. And I saw one more thing. The last words hurriedly scribbled into the margin. If I don't make it, tell her. I trusted her more than anyone. That sentence hit me, like a punch to the gut. It shattered the silence I'd carried for years. Years of shame, doubt, believing I was the reason she died. But she trusted me enough to write that. I carefully folded the letter, feeling its weight. Why wasn't this sent home? Victor shrugged, face blank, flagged as non-deliverable. Why? He hesitated. That flag only triggers two ways. Either the sender didn't have clearance, or someone in command pulled it. Who has the power to intercept this? His voice was low now. Only immediate family. Or a colonel with clearance. I stared. A colonel. The edges of the letter curled tighter in my hand. Who had every reason to quiet it? Alan Cole. You can't erase a name if someone writes it again. The waiting room smells like lost time. Mildewed ink, faded carpet, that sterile, dead air. The Department of Veterans Affairs building in D.C. hasn't changed since I last wore a uniform. Except now, I'm not in one. I slid the faded documents across her desk. Her eyes flickered with recognition, then smirked. She leaned in, delicate and deliberate, revealing a small, battered photo tucked into the corner of the file. Unexpectedly, there I was, decades ago, in uniform, smile sharply frozen, surrounded by a group of soldiers. The air around us thickened. It hit like a gust of cold wind. The files had been tampered with, manipulated. And somehow, I was even deeper in the military's shadowy past than I'd ever dared admit. The quiet ghosts of my service, long buried beneath years of estrangement, now pressed back into my reality. Did they think I'd forgotten? That the wounds had healed? No. They're still here, stirring. And as I stared at that photo, I wondered, how many other stories are out there, hidden beneath layers of pride and silence? How many are waiting for someone brave enough to unearth the truth? Because sometimes the real revelations aren't loud. They're just quietly chilling, like the rain that taps softly against the window, reminding you that the past never really stays buried. And in that moment, everything changed. The ghosts had finally come home. In the quiet hush of dawn, I found myself standing amid remnants of a ceremony I almost didn't recognize. The air is thick with anticipation, yet beneath that, a whisper of something darker. Secrets cloaked behind medals and proud stances. Ethan Harris. Harris stands tall, chest puffed out, the embodiment of American pride, his smile a little too confident, as if he's already claiming victory. Nearby, his mother Meredith's gaze lingers on him, the warmth of her love battling a quiet reservation. And off to the side, a young airman fumbles with protocol, eyes wide, confusion painted across his face. But it's me, an outsider now. Once a soldier, now watching from the shadows. I'm resilient, yes, but beneath the calm exterior beats a heart still aching from estrangement, craving acknowledgement, both from my family and the larger world I once served. My fists tighten as I watch Ethan Harris, feeling proud yet painfully disconnected. Suddenly, a muffled shout cuts through the moment. The crowd's heads turn. Feet shuffle uneasily. Then, out of the darkness, a trembling voice rises from the shadows. You don't know what's really happening behind these walls. For a heartbeat, everything stops. The tension hits a new level. Eyes flicker. Ethan Harris's confident stance falters. A ripple of uncertainty spreads. The camera lingers on my clenched fists, the reflection in the glass flickering like a mirror of fractured spirits. What secrets hide beneath the surface? What truths have been buried so long they threaten to explode? The scene pauses there, unresolved, a moment hanging in the air, heavy with possibility. Because sometimes what's unseen is what truly matters. And just as I step forward, ready to face whatever comes, everything and everyone stands on the edge of revelation. What's lurking in the shadows? That's what we're about to find out. In the stillness after the ceremony, the air hangs heavy, the hum of respectful silence. Then, a sudden gust sweeps through, rattling banners and rustling leaves. Something's not right. From the shadows, I see him. A young airman clutching an old faded photo. His fingers tremble. As the camera pulls back, I notice a long-forgotten insignia etched into the frame. My eyes lock onto it, and a shock hits me. That insignia? It belongs to an ancient, secret military order. One I thought was long disbanded. My breath catches. This isn't just about flags or medals anymore. It's about buried truths, a legacy that hides dark beneath the proud surface. I realize I'm no longer just watching. I'm part of something much bigger. Hidden histories ripple to the surface, rewriting everything I thought I knew. Suddenly, the past I tried to leave behind isn't just a memory. It's alive, urgent, calling out. Because sometimes what remains unseen is what can change everything. The scent hung heavy, burnt rubber and leftover gasoline, clinging to the cluttered garage like a ghost. I moved through the shadows, fingertips grazing the cold steel of my rifle, feeling every inch anchoring me to a fractured moment in time. Beyond the gears and grease, I could still hear the distant hum of helicopters, fading into dust. But then, a voice, faint, almost lost, echoed from years ago. My mother's voice, proud but strained, reminding me silently of the battles we fought and the sacrifices made. Her words lingered, layered with worry and hope, the way she'd whisper, "Stay strong." To her, I was more than a soldier. I was her daughter, her pride, yet that pride was tangled with invisible wounds I carried alone. The world outside demanded recognition. But inside, it felt like she, like me, was just trying to hold it all together. And then it hit me. What are we really fighting for? Recognition? Respect? Or just to be seen? For who we are beyond the medals, beyond the roles? Maybe it's time to find out. Most folks wouldn't catch it, but I do. Cross-checked, the stub matches old logs from Colonel Alan Cole's final year. My knees felt like they'd give out, but I stayed standing, solid. "It's retaliation," I muttered, voice almost lost. "Went public, so now they're twisting the story, smearing my name." She hesitated, eyes flickering. "There's more," she said, clicking open a second tab. "Journalists are calling now. Sources say someone sent them a redacted report, an anonymous tip, with my reinstatement paperwork attached. They're framing it as a cover-up." Lips tight, I said, "This is bad." My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I ignored it, Avery's hand on my arm. "Prepare yourself. Things are moving faster than expected." Then another email. Urgent. Subject. Mandatory review. Time. 1100 hours. Location. Department of Defense, Community Center. 4B. No instructions, just the seal on the email. I caught my breath. "Do they want a statement?" I asked, voice trembling, or worse, an apology, a confession, maybe even an exit plan. I looked around my community center. Walls of glass, glowing Sentinel interface, the faces of young engineers trusting me. This was my creation. I wasn't going to back down. By 10:45, I was standing outside Community Center 4B, just a few steps from the Pentagon's core. Steel corridors, silence thicker than steel. I carried my evidence, proof of edits, command logs, a letter from Madison, close to my chest. Behind me, the door swung open. Slowly, I turned. There he was, Colonel Alan Cole, my father. Full-dress uniform, pristine, serious, not a hair out of place, no words at first, just a long look, like I was a stranger he'd once dismissed and forgotten. Finally, he spoke. "You never knew when to quit." I held his gaze. "No, I know when to start. Sometimes justice comes with 4 stars on its shoulder. The last time I crossed these halls, I was 25, in uniform, summoned for a secret meeting. No voice then. No fight, just echoes and shadows of a man I thought I knew. Now I stand here, the weight of truth heavier than any rank, heavier than the medals that don't validate my fight. And in this cold, sterile corridor, I realize, maybe all along, I was fighting not just for the truth, but for the part of me I've been trying to find. I remember the rough grip of my hands on the cold, gritty earth that night, the dark soil pressing into my palms. The moon was just a sliver above the horizon, casting a dull glow over the empty landscape. Somewhere in the distance, the faint wail of sirens echoed, reminding me of the chaos left behind. The smell of burnt fuel and sweat hung heavy in the air, thick enough to choke on. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, a relentless drum of adrenaline and doubt. That moment of silent vigilance is etched inside me, flickering with pride for what I was willing to do, and despair for what I lost. That night, I wondered how anyone could truly understand what it takes to stand there, waiting, watching. It's a lonely kind of strength, one that stays buried beneath layers of pain and resolve. Now, years later, I sit here and wonder if the stories we tell are enough. If anyone really sees the weight carried by those of us who return, not with medals, but with scars that never fade. The overcast sky presses down, whispering questions. How do you reconcile pride for your service with the ache of being misunderstood, even by those you love? There's a quiet resolve in me, pushing through. The ceremony begins, faces sharp under the morning haze, families, proud and quiet, caught between tradition and hope. Ethan Harris stands tall, eyes burning with a mix of ambition and pressure. Then there's Meredith, her eyes soft but distant, holding her love with one hand, her heart guarded with the other. And the new airman, so eager, so unsure, scanning the crowd and trying to understand what it all means. I wonder, do they see beyond the uniforms, beyond the medals, or do they just see the surface, missing the battles fought in silence? They all have their reasons, their stories barely whispered inside. We all chase recognition, trying to prove we matter, to belong somewhere, anywhere. Maybe that's the real mission, isn't it? Finding a piece of ourselves in all the chaos, desperate to be seen, understood, loved. As I watch Ethan salute with a confident smile, I think of the legacy he's trying to uphold and the weight he carries. I see Meredith's nurturing in her quiet support, even through her reserved stare. And I wonder, will any of us truly be enough, or are we just echoes of promises made long ago? Maybe what matters is the quiet truth, how we carry our scars, how we keep going despite everything. That, perhaps, is the real victory. Surviving, even when it feels like we're meant to fall apart. And in this moment I realize, it's not just about the medals or the ceremonies. It's about everyone who stands, fights, and keeps fighting, hidden or not. the ones who carry the unseen weight of their sacrifices every single day. That's the story I want others to remember. Because maybe, just maybe, that's where true strength really lives. The drums of the ceremony beat in my chest as the crowd's eyes lifted skyward, the proud banners fluttering like silent witnesses. Family, friends, strangers, all gathered in this shared moment of honor. Ethan Harris stands tall, chest proud, fighting to prove he's everything his family hopes. Behind him, Meredith's smile is gentle but guarded, a mother's love wrapped tight around a guarded heart. The new airman glances nervously, trying to grasp the significance of what's happening, an unfamiliar weight settling on small shoulders. Yet, amid the applause and pride, it's her face I notice, the silent observer, standing just outside the glow. Her eyes flicker, pain, resilience, that quiet ache we all carry, unseen. The camera lingers, capturing the proud faces of the family, then suddenly shifts. It's her. She's there, in the shadows, clutching a faded photo of herself in uniform, her knuckles trembling. Without a word, she slips her device into her pocket, a subtle act of reclaiming her voice, the one long suppressed. In that quiet moment, it's clear. Her presence is the deepest tribute of all. Nobody sees her, but she sees herself. Heroism isn't just in medals or ceremonies. Sometimes it's in the silent fight to be recognized, to find your place among echoes of legacy. She isn't just an outsider. She's an unspoken witness to her own truth, and maybe that's what truly makes someone a hero. The air hung heavy, thick with unspoken tension. I kept my gaze fixed on the shadows flickering just beyond the dim glow of the ceremony. Something was there, an almost imperceptible movement, like a whisper on the edge of vision. My fists clenched quietly, battling the swirl of hope and dread tightening in my chest. Around me, the crowd's proud voices had hushed, eyes on the stage, unaware of the storm brewing inside. I wondered, was today the day I finally break my silence, or will the weight of everything swallow me whole again? Hope trembles on the edge of vulnerability. Every nerve screams like a sniper's shot. Just when I think I might speak, that I might reach out, or finally, somehow, be seen, something shifts. Then the shadows shift too, and I realize I'm not the only one hiding secrets here. The question hangs in the air. Does anyone really see us, or do we just go on pretending everything's fine? Because I've learned. Sometimes the bravest thing is just to stand there, unseen, waiting for your moment. Or maybe, just maybe, to make a move nobody expects. And in that pause, just as my heart races, we all hold our breath. The moment teeters on the edge. Will I finally be heard, or will I disappear into the quiet again? The silence is deafening, and the future uncertain. The story isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The cold click of the lock echoed in the silent house, a sudden sharp break from the thick silence. I remember the way my fingers trembled as I reached for the envelope, the yellowed edges curling slightly at the touch. This was the house I'd left behind, the place I thought I understood, but now found twists lurking in every corner. Harper's voice broke the quiet. "We're covered." Her words felt like a lifeline, a script I didn't know I'd needed. Her tools, the necessity of breaking in. This moment felt heavier than just uncovering old furniture. It was about peeling back layers of my own history, uncovering secrets buried deep in the past. When I finally opened that envelope, I wasn't prepared. Madison's handwriting stared back at me, careful, deliberate. Inside, I saw the discrepancies, the altered signatures, the falsified discharge report. It was a betrayal, a whisper of a truth someone desperately wanted hidden. That yellowed paper in my hand, fragile and worn, symbolized how much I had been shielding myself from before. How much I'd buried to fit into a story that wasn't mine. Somewhere in that dusty room, I realized The past isn't just about proofs or documents. It's about the courage to face what's been kept in secret, to decide what to carry forward and what to leave behind. Questions flood my mind. Who forged that signature? Why was I kept in the dark? And most haunting, who was I really supposed to become? In this moment, I saw that some truths don't want to stay hidden. They crawl out, demanding to be recognized. It's not just about uncovering the past. It's about reclaiming your present, and maybe, just maybe, finding peace in confronting what's been buried all along. A gust of wind suddenly swept through the ceremony, stirring the flags and rustling the leaves around us. In that fleeting moment, something caught everyone's eye. A hidden flagpole revealed a message scrawled on its underside in hurried letters. She never left. Silence fell like a heavy cloak. Eyes widened across the crowd, families, military personnel, all suddenly aware that the story we thought we knew was just the surface. Because it wasn't just about heroism or pride, it was about secrets buried beneath generations of medals and valor. The estranged narrator, standing quiet and resolute, had played a clandestine role that no one saw coming. Maybe she saved someone. Maybe she betrayed them. Either way, the truth rewrote everything. The sacrifices, the stories we cling to, they're only part of the picture. Underneath, a quiet story lurks, waiting to be uncovered, and in that revelation, everything we thought was true begins to shift. The sun dips low over the memorial grounds. A gentle breeze stirs the flags, carrying a scent of rain and lingering memories. I stand there, silent, watching family and strangers alike, each clutching their own stories, their own scars. Then I notice it, a faint flicker near the old family statue, barely perceptible. My eyes narrow as a shadow shifts. Suddenly, from behind the stones, a figure emerges, clutching a battered photograph, face obscured yet familiar. The air thickens. Before I can react, the figure steps forward into the fading light. It's an elder relative, the one we thought had been estranged, gone far away. But here they are, revealing a truth buried under decades of silence, a hidden family secret, a story of sacrifice, betrayal, and unresolved pain. The medals clang, the scent of aged paper all fade away. My perspective shifts, from individual pride to a tangled web of legacy, history, and the ghosts we refuse to face. A revelation that rewires everything I thought I knew, because sometimes the past refuses to stay buried, demanding recognition and reconsideration. The ceremony was supposed to be about respect, pride, honoring those who served. Families gathered, medals sparkling, flags fluttering in the cool breeze. But just as the moment reached its peak, the wind carrying scent of rain and old memories, a sudden gust swept across the field. The flags rippled wildly, and in that chaos, something strange caught my eye. Hidden beneath layers of fabric, just barely visible among the ranks of medals, was a symbol I thought had long been destroyed. My heart pounded. For a split second, my proud mask cracked. Raw revealed itself. Recognition sparked in my eyes. My own overlooked contribution, buried beneath silence and regret, suddenly stepped into the light. That tiny revelation, like a ripple, changed everything, not just for me. It rewrote a story we all thought we knew, shifting the narrative from distant heroism to fierce acknowledgement. Because sometimes the truth whispers softly, waiting to be heard, and when it does, it rewires the entire story of who we are. The wind stirred the flags, a sudden gust that spun them wildly, ripping through the ceremony like an untamed spirit. I watched as the fabric fluttered, dissolving into the fading light, when suddenly, amid the chaos, a voice crackled over the loudspeaker, a voice I didn't recognize but somehow felt deep in my bones. It was a distant relative, long presumed estranged, revealing a truth buried beneath decades of silence. My entire quest for recognition, my silent struggle to belong, wasn't just about medals or respect. It was about family. About the real story behind the names and icons we hold sacred. The moment grew still. I felt the scent of rain in the air, a leaf rustle whispering secrets from the past. My breath caught. I wasn't just seeking acknowledgement today. I was reaching for a long-forgotten piece of myself, hidden in the shadows of a family I thought I knew. Maybe, just maybe, there's a past waiting to forgive me, a story waiting beyond the fluttering flags. Underneath the muted glow of sunset, silence cloaked the field, the kind that presses in, heavy with unspoken truths. The crowd's murmurs fade as I step forward, my legs trembling just slightly. My eyes shimmer, not from tears but from 1,000 unspoken memories. I rest my hand on Ethan Harris's shoulder. A gesture cracked open by resilience, by regret, by hope. The wind carries a scent of rain, and a leaf rustle sounds like whispered secrets. I wonder, can forgiveness really bloom here? A moment's pause. The tough veneer cracks. Vulnerability slips through, revealing every silent sacrifice. And suddenly, amid the flickering shadows, reconciliation sparks. Fragile but real. It's as if the past, long buried, begins to breathe again, whispering that acceptance isn't unreachable. It just waits beneath the years of pain, patient for the right word. Maybe, in this quiet dusk, we find that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about finally seeing each other, truly.